Hi, I'm Dave Atkinson, and welcome to Life on the Straight. This 23rd installment in the Epic Remodel series covers the 2-week period of June 28th through July 11th, 2020. Now, before we get started, I would like to address the sunroom heat pump issue. I brought up in the last episode that we had received a bid from the heating contractor Airflow to install a ductless heat pump. Before the remodel, the sunroom relied upon convection to bring heat from the main house flowing in through the open sliders during the winter. To cool it during the summer months, we needed to open the west windows and east wall slider, all screened, and let the breezes remove the hot air. We no longer wanted to do that. The new underdeck insulation, along with the skirting, should help with heat retention during the winter, but it wouldn't be enough. To keep window condensation to a manageable level, that required heated air which flowed throughout. We also didn't want to rely upon having to open screened windows and a door for cooling during the summer months. The screens were ugly. They would fill up with sand and upon the first rain would turn into big sheets of mud, and the sunroom no longer had the big slider on the east wall. Airflow had a special 3-year zero-interest financing deal on a ductless heat pump, and given how much our project had gone over budget, we decided to take them up on it. What Frank's crew and the electrician would do is provision what they could for a future ductless heat pump, and then once their part in a remodeling project was complete, we would contract with Airflow to install it. That is why in the last episode the crew poured such a large concrete pad in the back for the heat pump compressors. It would hold the large primary heat pump compressor as well as the one for the future ductless unit. Now let's get into this 2-week period, and it's a busy one. Monday saw the removal of the front planter box forms, and it was something to behold. We loved the chamfered corners and the formed reveal details, and it was interesting to see how the door opening into the underdeck area worked out. A wood nailer was embedded into the top of the planter's back wall and would shortly be used to help support the deck joists. Out back, the crew began installing the deck pavers. These heavy concrete pavers sat atop plastic pylons which provided support in 6 areas, the 4 corners plus the midway point. And as you might guess, from time to time a paver would not be in perfect contact with all 6 support points and would rock slightly when stepped upon. This required the crew to remove the paver and grind down the high spot or spots. It wasn't for every paver, but a significant number of them required Frank's handcrafted touch, and it required a lot of physical exertion as each paver weighed 45 pounds. Inside the sunroom, the tile guy was busy with the dry layout phase of installation. It was nice to see that all of the crew's hard work, which was required to provide a sloped subfloor, paid off, as the tiles married against the sliding glass door thresholds perfectly. Tuesday saw the installation of the water softener manifold, which was covered with gravel and topped off with a tarp to separate it from the dirt that was added later in the day. The crew also installed the electrical conduit for an optional water feature. Tile work continued in the sunroom along with paver work on the back deck. Standing at the east wall of the sunroom, it almost looked like the same pavers were on the inside and outside, as they had the same 12-inch by 24-inch format, were gray in color, and nearly aligned along their long edges. As our guest bath to laundry room river of tile was complete, we inserted the floor registers that we had purchased earlier. On Wednesday, the concrete crew loosely formed up the front walkway that would lead up to deck stairs in order to hold the gravel that they had brought in, and they also put topsoil around the planter box footings. The tile guy was finishing up the sunroom floor tile, and Frank's crew finished up with a rear deck paver installation. Frank also cut the 2 cedar planks that arrived the previous week into 4 stringers for the deck stairs. On Thursday, the only photos I have are of the front walkway forms being ready with rebar all in place. Friday saw the addition of piping along the left inside of the front walkway forms. Let's break away from the play-by-play for a moment. In a previous episode, I explained how the footing drain that was supposed to carry our softener's flush cycle water over to the drywell below the stand of fir trees wouldn't work because the pipe was fully blocked with solid sand. What ended up was a slight redesign of our planter box, which would now distribute the water using a manifold below the dirt. Frank brought to our attention a new issue that he was trying to figure out. If you visualize walking up the stairs towards the entrance door, the downspout on your left that provides drainage currently didn't have a good place in which to terminate. At the other end of the deck, we were going to use a splash block sitting atop the planter box dirt to deal with the runoff, but on the left side, there was no such option. Frank's solution was elegant. The downspout would go through the deck and down to an embedded pipe in the concrete walkway. About halfway out to the driveway, the pipe would exit into the adjacent garden area, but not out to a splash block. Rather, the runoff would be channeled into a large concrete catch basin, which would allow for the sand to settle at the bottom. The sand-free water would exit near the top, where it would then be piped over to the drywell. As homeowners, we'd have to remove the grill and scoop out the sand once each year, but that wouldn't be so bad. So on Friday, the pipe segments were propped up into the forms awaiting concrete. Also on Friday, the crew began installing the Hardie panels below where the deck was going, as well as Hardie planks on the front of the garage. Monday was more Hardie installation, completing the areas below the deck as well as the front of the garage. The crew also installed the ledger board and brackets to the house for the upcoming beams and deck joists. Tuesday saw a familiar sight, a concrete truck backing up and pouring into the walkway forms. The structural wood for the front deck, that would be the posts, beams, and joists, also started going up. Inside the house, the tile guy switched gears from the sunroom to the walls of the master bath wet room. On Wednesday, the tile guy staged the heating floor elements out on the sunroom floor. There was one large section that would heat the closet and main floor, and a smaller section for the shower floor and bench. He also installed more tile in the wet room. Outside, the concrete crew removed the forms from around the walkway while Frank and his crew installed rim joist blocking along with a section of rim joist. On Thursday, the crew installed some of the joist blocking on the front deck and finished installing the rim joist. The tile guy continued with a master shower, finishing up the shower niche. And finishing up this period, on Friday, the crew completed the front deck joist blocking and installed interior doors for the 2 small bedrooms, the guest bathroom, and the linen closet. And inside, the tile guy continued work on the master shower, including the installation of the strip drain. That wraps up 2 big weeks of progress for our epic remodel project. Thank you for watching Life on the Straight. And if you'd like to follow this story as it unfolds, please consider subscribing, which is free.